Hi there. Welcome again to the Mental Health Series, this time talking about communication. I'm Jennifer Schmitz, the mental health provider with the Schriever Guardian Resiliency Team. Given that communication is a central part of being human, I will devote a couple of different videos on this topic, but specifically related to women and men's mental health, there's a lot of biological and societal reasons why we may have a different approach from the opposite sex. They are good reasons, but they can create some confusion. Throughout our lives, what seems easy, like talking to our loved ones, really can benefit from a bit more attention. As a deeper consideration, also consider some of these principles when you talk to yourself as well. Words matter, and how you phrase things can do a lot to influence your mood. As a framework for this video, I'm going to use the 3 minds concept from dialectical and behavioral training. It goes like this. We have a logical or reasonable mind where we use, as the name suggests, logic and reason to problem solve and operate in the world. We have an emotional mind where we make decisions based more on our emotions rather than on logic. The intersection is considered the wise mind. This is where there is a calm, peaceful balance between the two and an inner knowing what the right actions are, what the right solutions are, or the communications are for a given situation. A very huge stereotypical assumption is that men think and communicate more in logic and women think and communicate more in emotion. Of course, this is not universally true. There are lots of women out there that are excellent logical thinkers and problem solvers, and we have all seen some pretty emotional men. But for the sake of this discussion, and so I can illustrate a different approach, I'm going to use this example. So here's a little story about Joe and Jasmine. Joe is raised to be a problem solver. His dad did it. Joe does it all day at work. This is the mode. I have to solve problems, is his belief. He gets together with his buddies, who are like-minded, and when he vents, they give some emotional feedback like, dude, that sucks, but have you tried X, Y, and Z? So he gets a little validation, but mostly it's problem solving. Jasmine is Joe's wife. She also has to solve problems at work, and she's excellent at it. But when she talks with her friends, it goes a bit differently. So Jasmine's example problem is a boss who takes credit for her ideas with his superiors, making her very upset. She feels unappreciated, like her work and sacrifices are not valued. She goes out with her friends and tells them. They do not immediately give suggestions. Rather, they spend a lot of time validating her feelings. They say, doesn't he see how hard you work and how talented you are? What a jerk. He'd be lost without you, etc., etc. And then, once the girlfriends have thoroughly presented the case as to why Jasmine feels the way she does, and they have validated that, they will start the problem-solving stage. But this night, Jasmine didn't get to see her girlfriend, and she sees Joe first. Joe is trying hard to be more emotionally available and considerate, just like the marriage books say. And he notices she is upset about something, as evidenced by her huffing around the house, her poor eye contact, and slamming the kitchen cupboards. At this point, Joe is visualizing a minefield that is laid out before him. He does not want to go into it, but he knows he needs to. So with a great deal of trepidation, he asks, "What's wrong?" She tells him what happened at work, and he is instantly so relieved it is not something he did, and he relaxes into his old habits. He says something to the effect of, "Well, we've talked about this before, and I recommended you try X, Y, or Z. Did you try that?" This does not go well. Jasmine might shut down, she might get angry and yell and start accusing Jo of not understanding the situation or not listening to her or not understanding her or appreciating her situation and feelings. She starts saying, "You are just like my boss. You don't understand how hard this is for me." Jo now realizes that he has wandered into the minefield after all. And like many of us, decides the best defense is a good offense and starts lobbing grenades back, and they are off. As I mentioned earlier, it is good to first understand what is making us tick before we get angry. Then, secondly, to understand that our spouses may not understand what will help. And then thirdly, to accept that you may need to explain to them exactly how to talk to you in situations like this. Them being clueless does not mean they don't care. It just takes a really long time to train someone how to talk to you. In fairness, it is reverse true for the other logical thinkers. They may feel overwhelmed if you put in lots of feeling words or try to explain things in detail when they are overall logical problem solvers. So my point is, it is important to figure out how you communicate and how the other people in your life communicate, and then work together to develop a style that will reduce strife. It may be different for the different people in our lives, but the overall reduction in strife helps reduce everyone's stress, which helps to reduce everyone's mental health symptoms. It does go back to that initial aspect of awareness, then action, rather than reaction. To add to the awareness we just spoke of by adding in the 3 questions guideline to solve problems within the dialectical behavioral training practice or modality. These are important whether the problem is a personal dilemma, you are trying to decide a personal course of action, or you are trying to fix a disagreement with someone. I added the 4th question if you are working out problems with someone else. The idea is that if you cannot answer yes to all of these questions, it is not the best time to fix the problem. So let's look at the first question. Am I able to solve the problem? Often, we will ruminate about something we do not have control over instead of focusing on what we can control. Doing the reverse is sometimes referred to as radical acceptance. This means thinking about the situation and reframing what you can do rather than beating your head up against a problem you have no control over. I'll talk more about this in future videos. 2. Is now a good time to solve the problem? Often, especially with disagreements, the rush to want to resolve the problem can be great. It is natural to want to get rid of the anxiety as fast as possible. However, it does have to be the right time. As your partner is trying to get out the door to go to work, or is trying to take care of a project at home, or watching the kids, it may not be the best time to discuss or solve the problem. It is advisable, however, to schedule a time to talk or fix it, especially if one or both of you like to avoid conflict. But you would need to let it go until that time. Distract yourself with other activities or thoughts until the right time to fix the problem exists. 3. Am I in wise mind enough to solve it? As mentioned in the previous slide, wise mind is a calm, centered, emotional condition where you can consider both emotions and logic evenly. Being too far in one direction will likely not produce the best outcomes in a disagreement, or even when just considering a course of action on your own. Additionally, if your partner is not in wise mind enough, then it is also not a good time to solve the problem. So if you can answer yes to all 3, then absolutely go ahead and fix the problem or talk through the disagreement. But what do you do if you can't say yes to all of these questions in the moment? I would suggest taking a time out if you are in the middle of a disagreement until both of you are able to discuss it calmly. Timeouts give you a chance to calm down, which will strengthen your ability to focus and consider options. During this timeout, you may ultimately think about what the nature of the problem really is. For example, maybe the problem isn't that your spouse didn't call you to say he or she would be late to dinner. Maybe the problem is a general feeling that they do not think of how their actions impact you. In the moment, you might not have thought all of that through. A timeout for a problem or situation can also be helpful. If you can't say yes to all of the first 3 questions, you may need to distract yourself with distress tolerance skills. If you are looking for skills and activities, a Google search will give you a wide range of things you can do to distract yourself until the time that you can return to working on the problem. Look for upcoming videos on these topics as well. Rules can be as complex or simple as you agree to. I prefer simple, as it is hard to think when feeling emotional, so it's easier, but each couple gets to figure out what is best for them. I cannot stress the importance of number 1 enough. Having a conversation when things are calm and figuring out the left and right parameters of your agreed upon plan is the only way this will work. With number 1, you will be determining the specifics of 2 through 5. 2, either party can call a timeout. It may be a good idea to come up with a term or catchphrase that will work for both of you. It can be serious or humorous, whatever works for you. 3, it is imperative that arguing or trying to continue your point stop if a timeout is called. I have often been asked, Jennifer, what if I'm in the middle of a good point? What if the other person is just trying to shut me down? Yeah, I agree. It's really frustrating, but it will not work if you keep going. But the point behind a timeout is that you will return the conversation and not have the whole thing dropped. You will get a chance to complete your thought or your point once you both return calmly. Write it down if you need to remember it. If it feels like you are both feeling shut down or it is not working, then I would advise marital counseling. Sometimes marital counselors can translate what one person says so the other understands it better. That is always an option. 4, ensure you both agree in advance to parameters of a time-based timeout. For example, agree to 30 minutes with neither party driving away, but okay to go for a walk in the neighborhood. Again, this is just an example. 5, if time-based timeout will not work, like one of you has to go to work or something, then identify when you will reserve the time that you are both not distracted. For example, after the kids are asleep. This can be a good time if you are both calm, but I would caution that you may need a time limit, like 45 to 60 minutes, in case one of you has to go to sleep in order to go to work in the morning. It is not fair to keep your partner from sleeping. It is possible to work through an issue using multiple timeouts. Life is busy, but it is better to work on an issue a little at a time rather than just ignore it. As I mentioned earlier, you can also take a timeout from a problem if you find yourself ruminating about an issue and getting nowhere. I have been doing this therapy stuff for a long time, and these respectful communication tips can be so helpful, so I'm adding them in. Number 1, this is really important. No name calling. Name calling makes people defensive, and they will shut down or attack, and rarely will they actually hear what you are trying to communicate. Name calling may make you feel better in the moment, but the long-term impact is hugely harmful. 2, no totalizing. Trust me, using always or never in an argument will likely prompt the other party to remember that 2 times what you said is not true. For instance, you never take out the trash. Then they will miss the point that you usually do it and you want the other person to do it more. They will just argue that you are wrong in saying you never do it. 3, do be specific about what is bothering you. Let me give you an example. You don't listen to me. That's quote. Chances are good the other person can hear you, They are just not understanding what you are trying to communicate. Being more vague will likely aggravate them more, which negatively impacts the whole situation. Number 4, kitchen sinking. One relationship trend is to avoid talking about what is bothering you in order to keep the peace. I mean, why would you bring something up if things are relatively calm and you can suck it up? However, when an argument does break out, then all of it comes out at one time. You can lose track of what the original problem is. You can go from having an argument over who should go to the grocery store and ultimately start talking about divorce if things are piled up enough. One option is to have a weekly check-in meeting where you can hash out some of these things from this week to get in the practice of talking effectively about them. So number 5, well, nobody wants to be bossed around. Sometimes it does help to get suggestions from our partners, friends, whomever, as far as what works best, so they will listen. But being told, you need to, will rarely work. It will trigger the rebelliousness in most of us. Therefore, saying something like, I would like it if you, or what works best for me is blank, blank, blank. 6, avoid blaming. Say, I feel blank when you blank instead of you make me feel blank. It does sound a bit corny and cumbersome till you get the hang of it. But the reality is that we will influence how other people feel, but we cannot control it. Saying you make me feel blank means you are acknowledging that the person you are talking to has more control over your feelings than you do. In reality, we are in charge as to whether we buy into what other people say. Additionally, I would refer you go back to the general mental health series of how beliefs impact our moods for an even larger explanation. 7, by no means text argue. Avoid text arguing as much as you possibly can. The amount of misunderstandings that come out of this is huge. It may seem like a lower stress way to argue, but it can really destroy a relationship. I am positive there are lots of other good guidelines, but this is a really good start. Feel free to print them out and share with your family. Communication is a very large subject, and this is just the start. So please feel free to contact me if you would like additional information on other aspects of communication or even general mental health questions. And I will see you in the next video.